Alright, let's finish up here very quickly with subsurface mines. And those are mines that are a series of tunnels and shafts in order to locate and then extract and process ore or coal. Alright, so here you go. Tunnels and shafts, very self-explanatory, to reach buried ore deposits. What this does is it basically eliminates the need to remove the overburden. The overburden is actually kept in place. So these are deposits that are either deeper or in areas that open pit mines or strip mines are unavailable. We're going to go down and we're going to extract the ore and we're going to bring it back to the surface for processing. This type of mining has a very storied history in not only the United States, but in Pennsylvania. And I like this picture because it really shows the effort of these individuals, the toil and the type of work that's involved, the struggle that they have to face. It's very culturally embedded into our history, the subsurface coal mining industry. The type of work was hard. Alright, there's always the chance for subsidence and collapse, which still occurs. Alright, in China alone, there's thousands of people that are killed every year. Especially in developing countries, there's poor regulations and worker safety issues are. Alright, workers down in these subsurface mines always have a chance for a disease called black lung disease, which is caused when miners breathe in coal dust and carbon, which basically hardens your lungs. Estimates show that 1,200 people in the United States still die from black lung disease every year. Alright, even though technology has increased in subsurface mining industry, in developing countries is where we're seeing a lot of problems. Alright, and here's a case study for you. The 2010, the Chilean mining accident. Alright, this occurred at the 121-year-old San Jose mine, where they were mining copper and gold, which is located in northern Chile. 33 miners were trapped 2,000 feet underground, about 3 miles from this mine's entrance. Okay, this mine had a history of geologic instability. They were fined. They had a long record of safety violations. So 12 years leading up to this accident, the mine was being warned and fined for lack of safety precautions. Interestingly enough, the 33 buried miners all survived for almost 70 days until the rescue occurred. It made nationwide notoriety, partly because of the video footage that was provided. And what also made this interesting is that they all did survive, and it was deemed a national heroic event. The Chilean Navy and NASA actually worked together to build this vehicle here called the Felix Rescue Capsules. And they sent those things down, and you can see it's literally just the width of a human body, and they brought all of the miners back up to the surface alive. Interestingly enough, many of those survivors, however, do suffer from things like post-traumatic stress disorder and other psychological disorders. They were famous for a little while, but after the dust settled, a lot of them had a lot of psychological problems from the experience. Subsurface mining has many of the same problems as surface mines. There's a lot of waste rock and toxic tailing piles that can lead to acid mine drainage, but there's also some more unique problems with subsurface mines, and that is subsidence and collapse, where thousands are killed each year. The black lung disease, you're exposed to dust within the mines. Water tables are lowered as water needs to be pumped out of these deeper areas. Right, there's a lot of methane can build up. You can have explosions within the mine. If you hit a methane pocket, which is flammable, and a spark occurs, you can have a fire or an explosion underground. There's toxic levels of things like arsenic and mercury that could be emitted by coal fires that enter the air or the water. And then you could also have things like hypertension, lung disease, kidney disease, whether you work at the mine or you literally just live near one. It's been reported that these things have higher rates of people who live nearby mines. Okay, so there's unique problems for both surface mine and subsurface mines that we have to consider here. Here's another quick example of a case study where in February of 2014, hundreds of illegal miners in Johannesburg in South Africa were trapped underground. And these things happen all the time if you're watching the news. Alright, my last case study for our mining discussion is the town of Centralia, the burning town. Okay, just north of here, about an hour and a half. The town of Centralia is located above an underground coal seam, which somehow caught fire in 1962 and is still burning. So here's an example of an environmental disaster where this underground coal mine caught on fire. Since that, all the properties were claimed via eminent domain by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, condemned and bulldozed. Right, there's still a few people that live there. There's an agreement between the state and the people of Centralia that the existing people, of which there's somewhere between 7 and 13 people, they're able to live out their lives. However, upon their death, their properties and deeds become owned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and will then be bulldozed. So they're able to live out their lives. This is what it looks like today. If you go there, it looks like a disaster area. Everything's been bulldozed. And you may come across places where there's still smoke and toxic gases still billowing up out of the ground. Right, so I encourage you to visit and see some of the unique cultural features. But it's also an area that is a nice case study for what can happen in regards to a disaster in an underground coal mine. Here's some SAVE members enjoying themselves on an outing in Centralia. And if you're really with it, you can see the stages of succession occurring in this environment. And you can ask yourself, is it primary succession or secondary succession? Okay, here are the couple of laws that you need to be aware of when it comes to mining and mining operations. The first one here is in 1872, and that was the original 1872 Mining Act. This U.S. federal law governs all mining of non-renewable mineral resources on federal land. All right, so this is the one. This was in response to the California Gold Rush. All right, it governs all public land in regards to mining of non-renewable resources like gold, silver, copper, lead, platinum, and some other things like uranium. So through this law, the 1872 Mining Act, all citizens have the right to locate a lode and then stake a mining claim on federal lands that are open to mining. So what this law does is it gives all citizens the right to go out onto federal land that is open to mining, all right, as long as it's not restricted, federal lands that are open to mining, to go out and locate a lode or a placer, which is gravel. And if you do find a deposit, you're allowed to petition for a permit, and you can actually go out and mine that deposit. All right, so this was the first one, the 1872 Mining Act, that governed all federal public land mining of things like gold, silver, copper, platinum, lead, uranium, and some other non-renewables. One of the major amendments to that original law was the 1920 Mineral Leasing Act. What we needed to do was we needed to extend and authorize the leasing of land to things like coal, oil, and natural gas, all right, and some other hydrocarbons. So this law, which was passed in 1920, it actually gives companies the right and the ability to go out and frack, is what we're seeing today, or extract shale oil out of places like North Dakota and the public lands and open up coal mines. So we're seeing a lot of this today. All right, 1976 RCRA, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, was the first one that governed the waste and hazardous waste that the mining operations produce. All right, and what it did was it required a paper trail. All right, so it required documentation for not only the disposal, but for transportation and then of disposal. of hazardous waste. So that RCRA, that 1976 RCRA, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, is why today you see the symbols on the side of trucks, and you'll see the skull and crossbones or the little fire symbol on the sides of trucks that are transporting hazardous waste or hazardous materials. For the first time, we needed documentation to transport these materials and documentation for disposal. So this was a really important law, RCRA. In 1977, the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, mining companies were required to restore the area around the mine of the surrounding environment to its pre-mine condition, or at least a stable condition when they shut down the mine. So a very important one in regards to the reclamation process in 1977. 1980, CERCLA was passed. All right, and CERCLA is otherwise known as the Superfund Law, and that is the cleanup of hazardous spills or accidents. All right, we'll talk about CERCLA and RCRA a lot when we get into hazardous waste or hazardous waste unit. Then you got two other ones that are more for the coal side of things, the coal mining process. In 1983, the Stream Buffer Zone Rule was passed, which prohibited any mining activities within 100 feet of a stream. So this was an effort to really conserve and preserve streams and aquatic ecosystems in and around mining operations. That 1983 Stream Buffer Zone Rule wasn't really enforced. Okay, this was a very loose law. It wasn't really enforced, and it became very easy for companies to obtain permits to continue to valley fill. And as mentioned, as recently as 2008, there was efforts to continue to grant these permits and exceptions for companies to bury streams. So there's a renewed interest right now. The Stream Protection Rule is going to try and again restrict some of the activities in and around streams and aquatic ecosystems in and around mining operations. So we're seeing like a renewed interest, and nothing's really been passed yet, but there's a lot of talk and a lot of action. So there you go. There's a whole bunch of laws that you should be aware of. Some of these we'll get into again when we talk about hazardous waste, but all of these are applicable and something that you should be aware of. Wow. I'm trying to make these a little bit shorter, but they are just so eye-opening, and as I go through this material myself, I just want to share everything with you. My goal is to open your eyes to some of these issues and really raise awareness. I'm not only trying to get you content for a test, but I really want to build better citizenship in you so that you can move forward with your lives and make decisions that are appropriate, environmentally friendly, cost effective, and just all around better decisions. Alright, so after this one, you now have my permission to go and lay down and take a rest. Life is a journey, and it's our responsibility to learn as much as we can. Thanks.